Fertilisers and eutrophication. Fertilisers. When crops are harvested and animals are slaughtered, the nutrients they took from the soil are lost. In order to replace these lost nutrients, farmers use natural fertilisers like slurry, manure and compost, or they can use artificial fertilisers which contain nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, etc. Fertilisers mainly contain nitrates that the crops can use for growth, because nitrogen is needed to make amino acids to make proteins. They can also contain calcium, which is needed for the production of plant cell walls, and magnesium, which is needed to make chlorophyll. They might also contain phosphorus for the roots and the blooms, and potassium for overall plant health. If nutrients are removed but not replaced, if they're consistently harvested, the crops, then eventually the field or the soil will lose its ability to grow crops. So eutrophication. So eutrophication is where the water gets polluted because of the addition of sewage or fertiliser, which is usually run off from the field into water. So the sewage or fertiliser runoff increases the nitrate concentration of the water and has a negative impact on the aquatic ecosystem. So there are 7 stages of eutrophication. So the first one is that the fertiliser runoff increases the nutrient or nitrate concentration of the water. And these extra nutrients cause increased growth of algae, and this is known as an algal bloom. The algal bloom covers the water's surface, which means that it kills the plants below because the light can't get to the plants below because the algal bloom is blocking out the light. So it kills the plant below because the light and the oxygen can't reach them. But then, because there's so much algae and they're all using the nutrients, the algae eventually die because the nutrients run out. And therefore you have lots of dead algae and lots of dead plants which need to be decomposed. So aerobic bacteria decomposes the dead plants. But because they're aerobic, they use up oxygen. So the bacteria use up all the oxygen for respiration, which means there's no oxygen left. Therefore, fish and other organisms die because there's no oxygen. And the only thing that can survive there is anaerobic bacteria, which produce toxic substances like hydrogen sulfide. So the water basically becomes stagnant and toxic. So I'll just run through that again. So first of all, the fertiliser increases the nutrient concentration for water. The extra nutrients increases the growth of the algae, known as algal bloom. The algal bloom covers the surface of the water, blocks off the light, so therefore the plants underneath die. The algae also die because the nutrients run out. This means that they now need to be decomposed, so aerobic bacteria decompose the dead plants and algae. However, that bacteria uses up all the oxygen for respiration, and therefore, because there's no oxygen, the fish and all the other organisms die from lack of oxygen. So the only thing that can survive is anaerobic bacteria, which produce toxic substances. So the water becomes stagnant. So controlling the use of fertilisers and storing manure and slurry in more secure locations can reduce eutrophication. So there are slurry pits, and a good slurry pit should be contained and it shouldn't be able to leak out anywhere else. So controlling the use of fertilisers so that they only use it at certain times, so that they don't use it when it's due to rain, so that it doesn't wash off into the local water supplies or the local lakes and streams.